This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about individualism, self-centrism, social Darwinism, and capitalism. How this is important to our understanding of human condition, how we perceive human condition, when everything in our societies has been conditioned to the principles of capitalism. That's why psychology, psychiatry, sociology, and many other, there are a lot of schools and bodies of knowledge that are conditioned, intentionally or not, by the capitalist mindset. That's not a social Darwinism, individualism, self-centrism, egotism, the narcissism. It's not because a narcissist personality. It doesn't necessarily, it has nothing to do with capitalism, but it's exacerbated by capitalism. And self-centrism, all, not because we cannot be egotistic, or we cannot be, but we are, it is the system itself. It's the waters where we swim, it's our environment, it's our cultural and ideological environment, and the narratives that give, that fill the environment, that make us become more selfish, that more individualistic, more self-centered, and more focused in our self-interests and the so-called survival of the fittest, which of course everything is dominated in our system, in our societal system, economic system, political system. Everything is associated with the pursuit of profit, the maximization of profit, accumulation of wealth, power and control, and in the hands of individuals, corporations, families, or other institutions, or in other institutions that are associated with the concentration of power, in the concentration of wealth, and the centralization of power in the hands of a few, the monopolization, the oligarchization and plutocratization of society. This is what is wrong with capitalism, that the people of the bottom need to understand. This is not just about a political system and a societal system. The way it is built, not only it's not only about narratives. It is about the real life, the real object, the real physical world, where it is about what we need to satisfy our needs, but also our wants. And why do we want this and that? We do not want things. We are social beings. That's another way, because we are that's a atomization that we are supposed to. I mean, we are not. We do not atomize. The atomization process is already a consequence of how we try to defend ourselves. In the end, this is a kind of a self-defense mechanism that we try to protect our self, our individuality. I mean, it is not because we are not able to recognize that we could not survive without others, that the self-made man concept myth is just a myth. Nobody can become anything but through others. As I'm always repeating this, but this is so important to understand what's wrong with us, what's wrong with our lives, what's wrong with our economic system, and why in the end it's self-destructive, and it is and makes us sick, because this is not who we are. This is not the human condition. You know, do not believe, please, question the assumption that we are self-centered bastards, because that's not who we are. We can be, and there are so many things that a human being can be. From a gentle person to a murderer, the same person. I mean, circumstances, and by circumstances I mean the circumstances of life, moments and experiences, but also the circumstances of the structural institutions and structural narratives and structural so everything that we need that makes us behave in a certain way, not because we are built like that, but because our survival and our flourishment depends on it. That is, I mean, this is, in my opinion, things that we need to reflect about those things. I mean, there is people reflecting about it. This is not something that I know. Again, probably I would not be able to thought about it if there was already not in the air. It's already part of our common knowledge, of our common humanity, that we understand it. But the problem that we need to fight against the system that is always imposing on us rules, principles, values. No, they are not only imposed on us, they are colonizing us. The problem is from within. That's why the fight against the enslavement, the ideological enslavement through the narratives, the dominant narratives, they are part of what we are, of our identity, of our psychological and socio-cultural identity. This is not about this is not about the outside. This is about the inside. This is about how we perceive ourselves. This is why it becomes invisible. It becomes invisible because it's part of us. It's what we are. It's how we understand ourselves and the world. So it's not a cultural blindness. It's also physical blindness. You know, culture is our nature. So there is no culture. There is not a division You know, culture is a living process that exists through us, through our existence. So culture is not something outside us. Culture, what matters about culture is inside us, which is our understanding of ourselves and our understanding of the world and our understanding of the relations and the connections and everything else that has to do with life and the survival is part of this process. It's not outside us. It's a process, and that process involves us as separated identities, as individuals, and in a relation with the world, in a relation with other people, and economy, the political institutions, and everything that we have to interact with. So we all the body of knowledge, the dominant body of knowledge that are produced, and all the narrative, you just think about psychiatry and think about the DSM, the diagnosis statistic manual. I think it's the acronym, DSM, diagnostic statistic manual, I think. Okay, so this is all these disorders, these mental disorders that we can associate with as societal problems, as social problems. They have a social base. We cannot. Why should we try immediately to center the problem in the individual? That is something wrong with the self of that person. That doesn't mean, and then if it's not cultural or social, so it has to be a chemical imbalance. Okay, it has to be from the physical realm, that in order to treat or to correct that chemical imbalance, you have to use artificial substances, synthetic chemicals that will correct it. That can, in many cases, it doesn't mean that is not useful, that some medicines cannot be useful for the treatment of certain mental problems and mental diseases. That's not the point. The point is the generalization, is the economic, the maximization of profit by incrementing sales, to use a product to treat what is supposed to be a problem of the self, a problem of the individual, when most of it is a problem caused by the socioeconomic system, and that the person has to endure, that is dysfunctional. The dysfunction comes from the outside. The dysfunction is in the relation. The dysfunction is about the relation between the person, the self, and the society and the collective. Because it's not a creative, it is a competitive, and it is a race to the bottom. Is not about understanding the importance of the social, also the importance of the ecological. That's why I always talk about a social and ecological political economy. Because without that, our sanity, our humanity, our mental and physical health, it's always in jeopardy. So this is, it's we need to understand that we are aware that we are individuals. Of course, we are self-interested. That's nothing wrong with that. We have to self-protect all animals do it. All animals behave like that, or most of them, I believe. Especially in the mammalia. But all social animals also understand that they are interdependent. They are relational. By the way, all life that exists is relational. Life doesn't exist without that feature. Life is relational. This is a web of interconnected web of living organisms of all sorts that make possible life the existing life in the form of single organisms, of organisms separated from the others. But even in that form, it's a community of life. It's always a relational process. It's not about it's never possible to have life but as a process, a relation, a multi-dimensional relation of a web of living organisms, of many, that make possible the existence, a living system separated from others to exist. So, talking about the social animals, and especially the case of social and cultural animals that we are, it's even more important because we depend on we are social animals, so we depend on each other to survive. But we also have, adding to that, the cultural, the culture that we can have a culture, but the culture, there is a problem with the culture. The culture we can build cultures that emphasize these aspects, the social aspects of our relations, of the importance of the cohesion of the group, the need to cooperate to be more resilient, okay? The need to reciprocate to be more resilient, and competing to build divisions, because it is what is capitalism? It's about dividing to conquer. It's about making some inferior to justify the accumulation of wealth, the entitlement and the privileges of some that they are more important than others. So, and then you try to justify, you can see it across all bodies of knowledge. You know, you can see it, especially in the Western culture, that we have always been, the scientists, historians, and many others have been always creating a body of knowledge that tries to justify the existing order. That's trying to justify and to glorify the existing system, the class system, the capitalist system, the importance of private property and everything else. And this manipulation this manipulation, the perception manipulation of reality through what's supposed to be scientific knowledge or scientific based knowledge is basically misleads us into a perception of the human condition that is incorrect, and in some cases is absolutely is a lie. Whether this is done intentionally or not, it doesn't matter. It matters is the result, because then we have a perception, incorrect, distorted perception of ourselves and how we relate to each other and to the world. That is contrary, that is opposed, that is in denial of our true human condition as social and cultural beings that can really build cultures that emphasize the relevance of cooperation and for the resilience of the group, instead of competing for the accumulation of wealth, for the maximization of profit, and being self-centered and individualistic and atomized and all the rest that goes with it, to justify a system that is perverse, a perverse system. This is not, I'm not, this is, this I'm trying to see, I'm trying to share my thoughts and my reflections about these subjects in order that other people reflect and we can have a discussion about many other, that is not about me thoughting anything to anybody. I'm just trying to share, because it's very difficult to find people or close friends or people with whom you can really go into deep discussions, or even reading books, what people or sharing certain, discussing it. Just sit around the table and discuss it in a very, it's not easy to because people are interested in other things, so that's part of the problem as well. That's part of the division. That's part of, there is a diversity, there is a culture of falsified diversity, because it is diversity to divide us. It's not diversity that we all have, or we all should have the right to build our own identity, in the sense that we, for each one of us, there are differences on how we can have meaningful lives. So that is so. It is, and it changes throughout life. So we should have the right to have fulfilled lives, meaningful lives, not just the following the capitalist principles that in many cases just deny us that right, that exactly right of having a meaningful lives. Because the meaning of life in a capitalist system needs to go through commodification of everything of your life. You need to sell your life you need to sell your time in the market. You are a human, you become a human resource. So if the market has value for you, you have value. If the market doesn't have whatever the skills you have, or whatever you have to offer to the community or to the economy, it is the value is it is the market that will tell you what is your value. And I understand many people find it logical and rational and even moral. But in the surface, you might find it. Many people don't understand how much they lose by allowing themselves to believe the righteousness of this rational. How it strips us of our rights to be humans, to build. I mean, it's literally we are being dehumanized. Doesn't matter. I mean, I always say this. Doesn't matter how people seem to be sophisticated, or whatever, well-mannered and so on and so forth. If you go deep into it, you see how shallow even many scientific approaches of reality, how shallow and distorted they are. And it is, and nevertheless, many of these people come from Ivy League universities, so very places of ivory towers of knowledge, which actually are in. I mean, is not there. Of course, there are people that come from those institutions that they do have something to say that we should listen or read, but not everyone. That is for sure. This is our reality. This is why the more we try to comply with the existing system, and the more we try to, you just buy into the idea that there is no alternative. It's another important part of the narrative, because when we are bombarded, there is a barrage of propaganda telling us explicitly or implicitly that there is no alternative. Communism doesn't work, socialism doesn't work. So this is, if we want to, so economic growth is important. We need economic growth, because only economic growth will become social development. We cannot solve the problems. We cannot solve poverty without economic growth. We cannot do this and do that, and so forth and so on. Many people know this is wrong. This is just not true. That we do not need economic growth to satisfy the needs. What we need is an economy of sufficiency, and we need to. There are so many things that we do not need to have meaningful lives, and because again the problem is the atomization, is that we are fulfilling, try to fulfill our empty shells with sludge. That's what we are doing. I mean, we are trying to fulfill our emptiness through accumulation of stuff, and through the pursuit of transforming ourselves into objects that we have to look like this, we have to be like that. If you want to be success, you need to, this is to take away the focus from the relevance of relations, of the relevance, how do we build healthy and creative relations not only with each other, but with the world out there. How can we recognize that we have, and between us and the trees, there is, where I am, is a relation, direct relation. What these trees, we could not exist without them. We try to replace everything with technology, okay? That is another problem that I have discussed it before, and I will go back to it because all these things are related. So, for example, just imagine that we kill most bees or all bees. We just drive bees into extinction. Let's take this hypothesis. But it doesn't matter, because there are people working in creating artificial bees. Maybe some drones or some stuff that will replace the natural bees. How cool is that? Isn't that innovative? Isn't that about entrepreneurship? Isn't that important, that will make the economy grow? That is not making some corporations of the people or the companies that will produce it won't make money, and they will create jobs and everything else. Isn't it cool? Isn't it? Shouldn't we agree with it? No, of course not. What we should do is to try our best to keep the bees alive and do their job for free, because they are living beings like us. They don't want to die and disappear. They do not want to be driven into oblivion. But for as long as we, instead of building a culture where relationships are more important than the maximization of profits, it's not just putting people, like the slogan goes, put people above profits or something like that. That's very common, which is true, but it's not only about that. It's relations. Because if our relations, it's our social relations, are mainly based on self-interest, which means that we see each other as possibilities to make profit, as that I can gain something by using you. This impoverishes and this dehumanizes us, and this makes us sick. Of course, for the sociopaths and the psychopaths and all the opportunists that are out there, this is cool. It's a very good thing. They don't care. They are only focused on the bottom line. So that's okay. So That's exactly why we need a culture and an economic system and a political system and a civilization. That's what I always say, an ecological holistic civilization that exactly makes us understand and feel the relevance of the connections and the interdependency and the relevance and the importance, the full quality of the relations, not based on profit, but based on the understanding that how interdependent we are. Not by buying into the myth, because it is a myth, it is not real, that we can fix everything through technology. Technofixism is an illusion. It is delusional to believe that we can fix everything through science and technology. That is hubris. It's a part of the problem of intellectual hubris that also is a capitalistic feature. That that at the same time that we pursue profit, we even make it moral, a moral duty, because we are trying to save the environment, to save the climate, to save humanity, to save this and that. But while we are saving, we are destroying, and keep going on destroying, because again, an economy that is not based on sufficiency and justice is always destructive. Any economy that is based on the excessive consumption, especially of superfluous stuff, and the accumulation of wealth without limits, and the privatization of everything, will always be destructive. Will always, and doesn't matter if it is innovative, if it stimulates our imagination, it always ends up being destructive, because it is imperialistic. It needs expansion. It needs new markets. It needs to war. It is based on competition for dominance. And it is upon us, the small people, of all races and creeds and walks of life, okay? That we need to understand that it is our responsibility not to believe that the solutions come from the ones that make sure the system is kept in place in order to protect their wealth and their power. Not the other way around. The power needs to be to the demos. And the demos needs to understand that we need each other. That we are the social relations. That we are political beings with deep social connection that is needed for the collective being and even for the survival of humanity. So, human condition is plastic. Human condition is social. Human condition is not about fighting for supremacy. That even let me say this. Even human condition was proven that all the rubbish and misinformation and the misleading studies and many other biased supposed scientific based knowledge that defends us as self-interested, egotistic, that social Darwinistic, all that rubbish that people are supposed to take as true knowledge. But even if it's proved that we are like that, okay, we should reflect that then, okay, so if we are like that, that is kind of destructive. That will not result if we don't counter these natural tendencies. Let's put it this way. Then we will build societies that are dysfunctional, and in the end they will be self-destructive. That's what we allowed to build because the type of civilization we have and the type of society we have, it was exactly because we allowed exactly the people that have these characteristics, which are not the majority, okay? We allowed them to take control and to build institutions, to build a political body and the legislative body to authorize themselves to hold power, to concentrate power, to centralize power and concentrate wealth in their hands by creating the narratives again, by creating the narratives that justify and justify, legalize, and glorify the kind of system that is again that is the opposite of what we should have, and it is the opposite of how we developed as human beings during hundreds of thousands of centuries, years, and then we just when this system, this imperialistic civilization solidified, they become the default reality all over the world. We seemed unable to build, to see the world in a different way, to see how we can organize a civilization and a society in a different way. The experience, even socialism and communism was kind of in opposition to capitalism. I do not say that is not relevant, the knowledge that was produced by Karl Marx and others, because it is important. But I think we need to go beyond it. We need to not only understand, not only try to build an alternative based on the opposition to capitalism and imperialism, which is important as well as but we need to go beyond it. That's what I really believe. That not only it's not enough just to build the knowledge and to build alternatives and to think about it and to reflect about it, not only just in opposition, but real going beyond that perspective, because it can make us achieve or develop alternatives that can be even can be better than just think about. I mean, the point to me to emphasize is not communism or socialism. It is a social and ecological political economy for a civilization, an ecological, holistic civilization. That, in my opinion, there are principles of communism and socialism that are important, but I would not like to be to not allow myself to think beyond that, to be in the what's the name of it? To be squeezed in between these ideological and political frames. That's what I really believe. So because the fight is not the fight to me is not between individualism and collectivism. The fight is to defend the right to have an individual, the development of our individuality, but through the participation in society, not through competition but cooperation for the collective well-being, but not necessarily through collectivism. As I don't believe in that, and by collectivism I mean that then the collective becomes. I don't want the collective to eliminate the individual. There is to. It is a very. I want it in balance. I want the balance. I mean, I believe that is more useful for us, for our humanity, and to respect the human condition, that these two aspects are in balance. Not individualism versus collectivism, but the need to have to have individual freedom, the freedom to have a life with meaning, but with the responsibility to be part of the collective and cooperate for the well-being, the social well-being and the social justice through an economy of sufficiency. This is exactly what I believe. I mean, you have to understand that I'm reflecting, and my reflections and insights are not this is a process. What I'm saying today, I might need to correct it tomorrow, or to because there is always missing points or perspectives, and for me it's very important. So that is always a process. Whatever I state and try, it's not my full understanding of the issue. It is what in the moment that I'm doing it, in the moment that I'm talking my walking, that's how much or how further or how I can go. But of course, there is always parts that or points that I might not be able to equate. So there is always a more comprehensive understanding that That is why this is not. This is an open conversation. This is not that. This is not. This is not to be taken as full. As the full understanding of the problems. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's why this is. I'm sorry. This is okay. This is. I do not. I'm alone. This is a solitary. This is a solitary conversation, but nevertheless, this is an open conversation that should also stimulate others to engage in it. That will be it for today. Thank you for listening. I'll be back soon.